This Minn Kota Terrova has totally changed the way I fish. It's so convenient, especially with the spot lock. Spot lock, you get where you want to go, and it's like having an anchor, like a physical anchor, except it's just digital. Works on satellites. So wherever I want to go, I press spot lock and it just sticks. It'll keep your boat oriented in the way that you have it, and it'll keep it within 3 feet of where you press the spot lock button. No need for any type of physical anchor. So I'm going to slow down to 2.5, speed of 2.5, and I'm going to hit spot lock. And we're going to stay right here. I'm going to do a little fishing on this vegetation here. I'm going to slow the motor down. To about a 1.5, 1. So we're at 1. I'm going to press spot lock. And it should stick. You can see the motor turning on its own. And that ought to keep me within 3 feet of where I'm fishing. And the wind has definitely kicked up. So you can see my motor working a little bit to keep us on spot. And what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to hit my little button twice. And I'm going to jog us. I'm pretty happy where we are right now. So we are on spot lock. And you can see the Terrova working, doing its job to keep us right on point. And the wind has kicked up a little bit. And without that trolling motor doing its job with the satellites, with my tiller motor, I would be using my hand to physically change where we are. So I would have to keep reaching down and readjusting the tiller. There we go. Nope, missed it. I was paying more attention to the video than I was the frog. Let's go again. You missed it the first time. How about a second time? Although I find that when they miss my frog, it's usually a small fish. But the Terrova also has a jog feature, where you hit the button once to the right, the rear, front, or left, and it will take you in that direction 5 feet. You hit the jog button twice in succession, and it'll take you that direction, whether it's right, left, front, or back. It'll take you that direction 10 feet. The only disadvantage of just using the remote control, the handheld remote, is I'm the kind of bass fisherman who is used to using a foot pedal. Now I have the foot pedal, and I have yet to use it with the Terrova. But I'm thinking I probably will eventually, because when I am just trolling around on the shore, I have to constantly use one of my hands to use the remote instead of both hands on the rod. So for example, if I want to go forward or back, I have to use one of my hands on the handheld remote instead of my foot. If it was my foot, I would just continue to be fishing with both hands on the rod, controlling the fishing rod and using my foot to control the trolling motor. But it hasn't been that big of a deal because the most impressive part of this is spot lock and the jog feature. So I'll show you where the jog is later, but for now I'm going to jog us forward up to this point. We're going to go 5 feet forward. It's going to jog us 5 feet toward that vegetation. So it is moving us 5 feet closer to that vegetation. If I were to hit it twice, it would have moved us 10 feet in that direction. So when I initially ordered the trolling motor, just as we were coming out of the pandemic, I at first saved about $400 by buying the top edition power drive. But then I saw all the complaints about the power drive, about the stowing. When you take it off the mount and put it in the water, it was very difficult for people, and I guess people hate it. That along with, there we go. That's a big one. Wow. I'm really surprised. What the heck is happening here? Did he get eaten by a bigger one? Because he didn't look that big when he... So he snagged me. He snagged me on something. He's still on there. But he snagged me on something. Either that or something else bigger has him. What is happening here? What? What is going on here? All right, we're gonna take the motor over there. What the? Did he get eaten by a catfish? Let's get over there. I don't want my line to go loose or I'll lose them, but we're gonna head on over there. I'm gonna tighten up my drag. I actually think maybe he is so encased in hydrilla. I got him. He is just encased in hydrilla here. Well, you know, that's pretty cool because you can make a 2-pound bass feel like 10 pounds by encasing him in hydrilla. Yeah. Yeah, boy. All right. There we go. It's not a bad fish. It's a good looking bass. All right. I'd say 1.5, 2-pounder. Let's go. 2 pounds of bass, 10 pounds of hydrilla, or 8 pounds of hydrilla. This hydrilla was never on this lake. Now this right here, it's a mixture of hydrilla and some algae, but that's mostly, unfortunately, hydrilla. Hydrilla has been overtaking some of the lakes in Ohio and Pennsylvania. Hydrilla actually comes from comes from Asia. Thanks. Stink bugs. The you know what? And hydrilla. There's something else too. And don't worry, I'm half Asian. I'm not racist. It was originally stuff you would see in aquariums for decorative plants in aquariums. It's horrible stuff. It is almost impossible to get rid out of your lake. But it's hit this lake hard the last few years. I don't know what it's going to be like or what they're going to do in years to come. We're just going to have to see how more it invades. So I'm using a little booyah frog. So anyway, just as I hooked onto that fish, I think I was saying I ordered the power drive, and before I got here I actually changed my mind, and when it was en route, and I ordered 2 trolling motors at the same time, while the power drive, the top model power drive was coming. So I ended up getting the Terrova iPilot with the jog feature. And I also, although I have not hooked a fish finder up to it, I got the sonar in the head as well. And I think it was around $1,700 and worth every penny. And I also got the foot pedal, which I have not used yet. I think I'm gonna put the foot pedal, hook it up. It's as simple as hooking it to a wire. The cable that comes out, mine just hangs freely all the time. I was talking about the hydrilla that has overtaken this lake. They did shock this lake a few weeks ago to get some of the Asian carp out. And that was a mystery to me because I was under the impression that they're all sterile and they cannot breed. So didn't know why they were taking them out. I was going to come up here on that day. You had to stay 50 feet away from the electric boat that was shocking the fish, but I was going to come with some binoculars and see what they had shocked along with the Asian carp, because of course it's not selective. It's going to shock all the fish. I'm going to see what kind of bass they were shocking. So it might have been Kevin Van Dam who said that he really saw no difference, and I could be wrong, but I think it was Kevin Van Dam. He was talking about frog fishing. He didn't see the difference in actually jerking your frog or a nice steady retrieve in the amount of bass that he caught. If I'm crediting the wrong person, I apologize. I try to get my frog on target where I want it to go. I'll let it sit. I will pop it a bit. And for the most part, I'll do a steady retrieve. After that, I might stop here and there when I hit some vegetation just to entice a bass, just to change the presentation. But after the first few feet of where I wanted my frog to land and me popping it a bit, I usually do a slow, steady retrieve. And I will admit that I do catch a lot of bass on the steady retrieve. It is a beautiful night. And sometimes I'll go back to where I was just fishing previously, just to recheck. A lot of times when I bring friends fishing, they're typically fishing on the front of the boat, so they'll hit the spots before I do. And so they're already fishing at the spot that I'll end up fishing 5 or 10 minutes later as the boat drifts. And you'd be surprised how many bass that I've caught that were not enticed by the people on the front in the same spot. So I've learned to just sometimes before I move on, I will recheck the area that I just was. And I love the saying that all the fish are jumping where you just were. You can see the little shad or whatever they're going after being run up against the bank. I'm going to throw right where that bass attacks to this fish and just see if he's interested in the frog. Big, fat, tasty frog, and I got him. Little guy, probably not even a pound. Let's drag him through the hydrilla so he turns into 5 pounds. Yeah, might be a pound. Oh, just as well. Wasn't even a pound, probably half a pounder. So fate took him off my hook. And you can see this hydrilla. It's the stuff that was in aquariums, and it's horrible. Probably going on 7:30 at night. Oh, landed right on that guy's dock. And here comes a nice frog right off the dock. Any bass under there? So I always like to go in that V where the land hits the dock in any type of... All right, so with these frogs, you can see I got that tree. I'm just gonna go nice and slow. Don't let it swing. Do not let it swing around the branch. And just gonna give it a little tug. And there she goes. It's raining frogs out of trees. And bass couldn't be happier. So we're gonna go back and we're gonna hit that little V there. Little sidearm to get under the tree. So I've caught a lot of my really big bass in just inches of water. Just like a frog were to jump in the water a few inches off the land. It's not always necessarily under structure. This lake has a 9 horsepower limit. I'm gonna go ahead and take a wild guess that's not a 9 horsepower motor. Beautiful shoreline. So we used to fish here when we were kids. This is a 500-acre lake. So I like hitting under existing trees that are kind of, they don't even have to be in the water. They're hanging over the water, and they don't even have to be that very close. I think it makes fish feel safe to hide under a structure. And so anytime I see a tree that's overhanging the bank, I will cast toward it. So you can also set this Terrova to remember paths as well. You can, or they call them tracks, I believe. You can press record and you can record a track. And I have yet to do it, but I'm going to do it. I'm too busy fishing half the time, but I need to run down here with my gas motor on. And then with my gas motor on, I will do a theoretical path that I want to fish. And then I will save it in the Minn Kota Terrova. And I think I can save 16 or 17 paths. And that'll just take me along my path. It'll record that path and follow it down the shore. And that's pretty cool. Haven't used it yet though. Too busy fishing. So we cast about a foot or so from shore. Just like a little frog jumping off the bank. And we're gonna pop it in, let it sit a couple times. What'd I tell you? Fish jump right where you were. That's just a fact of fishing. So I've got a little aluminum 14-foot Lund. I've probably had this boat for at least 10 or 12 years. I've always wanted to pull the trigger on a foot pedal trolling motor because I was always using a tiller on the back, and that was always a little difficult. And then so I went over, I went all the way and got the Minn Kota Terrova this year. Got it in the spring. So there is another problem with a handheld remote that you might not think about. Because it's something else you have to bring with you, you may forget it. A couple times ago I went fishing and I forgot to bring the remote, and I don't have the foot pedal. The foot pedal is at my house. And so I was out on the lake, I got out on the lake, and I was just gonna go out for an hour or so. So that night, I actually just used the oars, like the old days. Like I was fishing with my dad back in the 70s, 60s actually. So yeah, that's a problem. So what I've since done, when I put the trolling motor away now, I make sure to hook the remote with the little carbiner. I hook it to the trolling motor. So in the future, I'll never forget to bring the remote. So when I was a kid, and my dad was teaching me to fish, topwater, he would tell me, you get it where you want to get it, and then you count to 10 before you do anything. Then you twitch it a couple times before you retrieve. Did I always listen? No, because I was an impatient kid, but I do find that works really well. I don't always wait 10 seconds. But I do give a little time. And you never know when you're going to get hit. Sometimes I'll be in the middle of retrieve. I'll stop just as I did in this case to work the hand remote. And I've been hit a lot of times like that, not paying attention. In fact, it happened when I caught that little bass earlier. I think I looked down. Well, actually, I missed that first bass. I don't think it could have been very large, but I looked down and I got a hit. So you never really know. I've had my lure almost up to the boat and been hit. I want to hit that spot right by that brush. Landed right on the stick. Now how's a bass gonna not be enticed by that? A nice frog morsel landing right in front of their face. It is quite distracting using the hand remote for the Terrova for a bass fisherman. If you are not always, like I probably adjusting this thing just as much as I would with the tiller. Of course, it's just a little flick of the thumb on the remote, but your fishing is still interrupted. All right, Mr. Killdeer, any bass over there? See any bass? There's a carp right there. That may be one of the Asian carp. Just kind of chewing on the hydrilla. So we're coming up on some cool structure here. For some reason, there are a lot of sticks on the shore there. we've had a violent, there we go, missed him. We had a violent storm here. That's got to be it. So we had a couple violent storms here recently, and I don't know if you can see those sticks floating in the water, but I'm hitting those sticks, and I'm assuming those are just broken limbs from the storm. See if any bass are hanging out there. There's a little bit of structure. I'm just going to cast right next to that tree. I don't like that. One thing about fishing is that you can't be afraid of getting your line snagged. You've got to cast to the structure. It's like, do I want to not have the hassle of maybe getting my lure stuck on some structure? So I'll cast where the fish aren't. It just doesn't make sense to me. I'm reminded of a story where a guy comes upon another guy in the middle of the night, and the guy's looking for something under a street light. And he said, "What are you looking for?" And the guy says, "I'm looking for my keys." And he said, where do you think you lost them?" He said, "Over there in the dark." And he said, "Why aren't you looking there?" And he said, "Because there's no light over there." Man, that sun is hot, and it is 8 o'clock. There's some hot sun for up here in, well, we're in Ohio right now. I always remember, as a beginner fisherman, sometimes the basics are the best, and they can be forgotten. And I was told to fish like the face of a clock, because honestly, you don't know where the fish are when you're this kind of fishing, bass fishing on the shore. And so I'll hit this whole area before I move on. I'll just go around the clock. Got the Canada geese. Come on, boys. What do you say to a nice tasty frog? Another little guy. Beautiful color. Little guy. Yeah. Good. I don't know if that was a thank you or the opposite. It is just the perfect night. Look at these swallows. I don't know how well they're going to show up on film, but they're just surrounding me. A couple weeks ago I was out here. A little baby swallow just learning to fly. Just happened to be right where I was, so I came upon it and it was drowning in the lake. And I pulled it in and let it dry off in my boat. I was going to take it to shore, but dried off, found its wings, and flew away. sometimes at the end of the night when I know I got to pack it in, I'll find myself hurrying. And I don't let the lure sit as much, and I quicken my retrieve, which is kind of what you don't want to do. You know, at the end of the night, I've got to remember that instead of making 50 casts with a technique that is no good, as opposed to fewer casts, slowing up the retrieve, being mindful of what you're doing, you have a greater chance of catching a fish, as opposed to trying to hurry up and get as many casts in as you can before the night's over. Looks like I'm going to hit this corner, and we're up here, and we're going to call it a night. As I look at my camera, it is actually quite a bit darker than it appears on film. I think that sun has gone down beyond the trees about 20 minutes ago, and I want to be able to see to get back in. I don't have any running lights on my boat. You just see the amount of swallows. Really cool. I mean, they are just surrounding me. I'm just gonna hit this one last corner, and we're gonna call it a night. How'd I miss you? Was that too rubbery for you? You want to try it again? How about your buddy? Beautiful night on the lake. I'm gonna pack it up and get in. I'm gonna take it a little slow going back. This lake is full of stumps and the water's down right now. So we're heading on back. Nice night of fishing, relaxing. Just got some little ones.